Many people think diplomacy isn't that great.
But why? Why?
I wonder the same thing, Mr. Bison. I'm Saviour, and I welcome you to the channel. This time I will try to justify my opinion that diplomacy is one of the best secondary skills. If you are waiting for Olden Era like every fan of the Heroes saga, in the top info cards I will leave you a playlist with several analyses of Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. Despite my opinion and that of Mr. Bison, it's certainly legitimate to think that diplomacy isn't that great. The main argument for this is that it's expensive. Is this really true? Let's see this with an example. The cost per unit of archers is 150 gold. Now let's try recruiting these archers with a hero that has basic diplomacy. Of the 23 archers, only 5 want to join us, and the price for those 5 archers is 3,450 gold. So, how much are we paying for each archer? To answer this, we need one of humanity's greatest inventions, the calculator. So, we divide the total by 5, and we have to pay 690 gold for each archer. This is much more than the actual value of each archer, which is 150 gold. Therefore, it's not a profit and is actually expensive. Now let's try advanced diplomacy. In this case, out of the 23 archers, we can recruit only 11 at a cost of 3,450 gold. But the actual cost of 11 archers is 1,650 gold. Therefore, with advanced diplomacy, there's also little economic benefit to recruiting units. But at the troop level, we have additional units that are otherwise impossible to obtain. Not counting external buildings, of course. Finally, let's look at the case with expert diplomacy. As you can see here, we can recruit 23 archers for a total cost of 3,450 gold. Therefore, the price per archer is 150, which is equal to the actual cost for each archer. So, is it expensive to recruit troops with diplomacy? With basic and advanced diplomacy, it is more expensive, but with expert diplomacy, the cost is the same as recruiting from the castle. Now let's continue with the analysis. But first, the Saviour Heroes 2 project needs your help. If my content has been helpful to you, I ask for a like and subscription so I can continue creating content for the Heroes saga. You are going to subscribe, right? Okay, so we've seen whether or not it's economically worthwhile to recruit troops through diplomacy. But is it only the economic aspect that matters? In my opinion, no. Of course, it's very important in the game, but in the end, battles are won with troops. and whoever has the most troops usually wins the game. Unlike Heroes 3, there are many external buildings where troops can be recruited. In fact, troops up to level 7 can be recruited for all factions in external buildings. However, this is not the case in Heroes 2. In Heroes 2, troops up to level 2 can only be recruited in external buildings, with a few exceptions, such as red dragons in Dragon City, or finding an ancient lamp and recruiting a few genies. This reinforces my point about the importance of having diplomacy as one of the essential secondary skills for any hero. In Heroes 2, we have fewer ways to recruit troops, and fewer of them since these external buildings also increase troop production in the castle. But here I have another question. Do all factions need additional troops? Having more troops than your opponent is never a bad idea, but it's true that for factions like warlocks, wizards, and necromancers, gaining more troops through diplomacy isn't as necessary as it is for other factions. And why is this? Warlocks have dragons, and they are usually enough to overcome any enemy army. They also have plenty of spell power to weaken enemy troops. In the case of wizards, it's very similar. Titans are so strong that they are usually enough to achieve victory. And finally, Necromancer with the secondary skill Necromancy can have a legion of skeletons for battles of attrition. They also have Vampire Lords, who are very difficult to kill thanks to their ability. So, for these three factions, diplomacy isn't essential. However, for the Knight, Sorceress, and Barbarian factions, I think diplomacy is essential, because in general, their units, especially the higher level units, don't have the power level of the three factions mentioned above. A Titan can take on a Black Dragon, but one Crusader can't defeat a Black Dragon. Therefore, more Crusaders are needed to defeat a Black Dragon, and the greater number of troops can only be obtained through diplomacy. Finally, in Heroes 3 we have many very good secondary skills, and we often have to leave some out due to lack of space. However, in Heroes 2 we have fewer good secondary skills: Logistics for obvious reasons, Wisdom primarily for Dimension Door, Town Portal and Mass Slow, Pathfinding and Navigation can be S-tier skills only under specific conditions. In conclusion, diplomacy will rarely be a hindrance. As a final verdict, while it's true that I listed diplomacy as a tier S skill in my secondary skill tier list, this is true for knights, barbarians, and sorcerers. However, for necromancers, wizards, and warlocks, it could be a tier A skill. Anyway, this is my experience with diplomacy, and everyone has their own opinion. If you found the video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This way I can continue the Saviour Heroes 2 project. Thank you very much, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye.